Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Heavily Biased. Today, we're going to be going over the NCAA tournament bracket and just kind of talking about which teams we like, who we think is destined for early exit, who got screwed, who got beneficial treatment, and just kind of go region by region and talk about who we like. So,
Sounds
uh,
like the opening of a reality show or something. What you just did. It's like we're gonna find out who got screwed, who got special
yeah,
treatment in tonight's episode.
it kind of is reality TV in a way.
Sports is the best reality television there is.
That's true. So yeah, man, we watched pretty much like Friday and Saturday, we watched every game that we could possibly watch. We watched all the championship games on Saturday and Sunday, and then it was just a good weekend of basketball overall. Who, for you, who was the most impressive team that you saw this weekend?
That's a tough one. I was impressed. I think from a perspective of how much they've improved over the year, I'd almost say Duke impressed me probably the most over the weekend, simply because to beat Miami and Virginia back to back, especially with being a young team, John Shire's first year, that was probably the biggest surprise. I mean, the other conferences didn't really surprise me too much. But if I had to narrow it down to about two teams, because here's the thing, Texas probably looked the best of any of the teams. I think Texas walked away from this weekend where people, I think you're seeing it with a lot of people in media, uh, picking a lot of people like Texas coming out of that region, especially with the injuries with Houston. But I kind of I liked Texas in that game. But so overall, I would say Texas looked the best. But the team that I walked away with the most impressed with was either Duke or Memphis, because I thought Memphis really took it to Houston, and I wasn't expecting Memphis to be able to kind of beat Houston in its own game a little bit, and they were just lights out in that first half, and then held on to win. So those would be my teams.
Yeah, Memphis was really physical in that game, and I think they always play Houston tough, but it just seemed like they were amped up for Houston. Again, Houston was without their top players, so that probably had something to do with it. But I do think I do think Memphis is poised, and I think they have the talent to make a run. Um,
46 points at the half was that, like, shocked me, because I
oh, that
didn't
Memphis
even.
scored. Yeah,
Yeah, because I was flipping back and forth, between games. I need to get a setup to where you got four TVs running. But yeah, I was flipping back and forth, and like when I was checking the scores on my phone, like to see every time I'd flip over there, they were up by another 4 or 6 points. And Houston, gotta give them credit, they almost came back and won that. But I think after the weekend as a whole, people really think Texas and Duke are surging, and teams like Kansas, who everybody thought was by far the best team in the country for a while there, right there with Alabama. I think there's some question marks with Kansas now.
yeah, I agree. I think for me the most impressive was Texas and Alabama. I just think um, Alabama. I think people knew that they were good, but they just kind of, I mean, they just cakewalked through the SEC tournament. Um, and then Texas, not only to beat Kansas, but to beat them handedly. They beat them handedly two out of the three times they played them. Um, and for me, the least impressive was probably Kansas in that championship game, and then UConn. I don't understand why everybody's so high on UConn. All year they've been high on them, and I don't know. I just when I watch them, I don't. I'm not overly impressed. So, um, but yeah. So let's go ahead and we'll get into. We're gonna go bracket or region by region and just kind of break down each game quickly, and then talk about who we like in each matchup. So, um, first we got Alabama and the winner of A&M Corpus Christi and Southeast Missouri State. Obviously, I think Alabama is the play here. I think they're going to put it on either one of these teams.
I do like Southeast Missouri State in that play-in game, though.
See, I like
If you
Corpus Christi.
if you really want to talk like quickly, I'll just quickly break down my first four picks. I would probably go with Southeast Missouri State, Texas Southern, Arizona State, and Pitt. And the only reason I'm picking Pitt, I don't think Pitt even belongs in the field. But every year, the team that doesn't belong in the field, we've seen it so many times, like that last team to get in, always seems to make some type of run. And I think you might see that with Pitt, like a team that shouldn't even be there. A lot of people think Rutgers should have had that spot, but so those are who I would pick. Just so that way, when we get to those games, if we decide that one of those teams might advance, we know why.
Yeah, I like all those picks you just made except for Corpus Christi. I like Corpus Christi in that game. I like all those picks you just made except for Corpus Christi. I like Corpus Christi in that game. All right, so moving
Yeah,
on.
Alabama for sure. That we can move past that one pretty
Yeah,
quickly. Alabama dominates that game.
yeah. The next game I think is a really good game. This is one of the games I'm excited about the most, and that's Maryland, West Virginia, the 8-9 matchup.
In the South region.
Yeah. This I've gone back and forth on. I've seen West Virginia play a lot more, obviously, because I watch a lot more Texas and Big 12 basketball. So I'm going to take West Virginia just because I just think Huggins will have them ready, and they can kind of. I feel like they can win a bunch of different ways. And Maryland, I feel like they're more. They have to win a certain type of game, and if it gets out of their comfort zone, then they're going to have trouble.
I like West Virginia a lot in this game. I think for me, I think you're going to see in this tournament how good the Big 12 actually is. Yes, they beat up on each other. I am worried about tired legs, especially with Texas, especially with Kansas. A lot of games being played. I think West Virginia got bounced from the Big 12 tournament. They have time to rest up. They play a physical style. I think Huggins always has, Huggins just is a guy that I think with a week to prepare, I think they have a better team. I like West Virginia quite a bit in this game.
5-12 matchup, San Diego State and Charleston. I like Charleston in this matchup. I don't know for whatever reason, but it just seems like those whack teams, even the ones that are good, they just never go as far as people think they will. San Diego State has kind of been they've kind of been in the mix, like in the dance consistently the last few years. But I don't know, man. I just like teams in March, even teams that are underdogs that have a ton of wins. Even if it's against kind of like lower competition, I just think when you have an experienced team and you have a team that is used to winning, like they're gonna find a way. And I wouldn't be surprised if Charleston pulls this upset. And in fact, I'm expecting them to. I would pick them in my bracket.
They're not the favorites in Vegas, but Charleston feels like the favorite in this game. I feel like this is the most popular uh, upset pick. I think this will probably be if you go by percentages of all the brackets, I think that because two things go in its favor. One, nobody's watched San Diego State play this year except for maybe this past weekend, unless you're like just an analyst. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The first time I've watched San Diego State play all year was this weekend. I haven't even seen College of Charleston play other than watching some highlights and stuff like that. This is one that if I'm betting it, I'm kind of staying away from. If I do anything, I'm definitely betting the under. But I'm going with College of Charleston too, just because I watched San Diego State play and I wasn't like super impressed with them. And so, but I do think that College of Charleston is that real popular pick, and those are always interesting to me. Like, I usually feel like you see some upsets that nobody's expecting. So, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if San Diego State won, but just based on what I saw this weekend, I'll go with Charleston as well. But the under, I think, is the play for the game.
Um, yeah. So you're talking about if you're betting the game, and we'll get in that. We're gonna do a separate episode in the next couple of days where we talk about our betting picks because the team that wins wouldn't necessarily be who we would take if we're betting it. So the next matchup is Virginia, the number 4 seed against Furman, the 13. And I got to be honest, I've watched Virginia a few times because I still keep up with Duke, and they don't seem like that team, that scary Virginia team that Tony Bennett sometimes has. You know, that team that can just like defend their way to the Sweet 16. Um, I just don't know if they have the firepower to keep up with a team that can get hot. And I don't know. I just feel like this is one of those games where Virginia is very rarely going to blow someone out. So I think the more that you keep people around, it's going to be in the benefit of the underdog. So give me Furman in this matchup.
I've done some research on this game. I'm going to go with Virginia simply because Furman plays a similar style. They play a little bit faster than Virginia. If Virginia was playing against kind of a more up tempo type team, but this is, I mean, Virginia kind of lucked out in my opinion with this first round draw. Again, wouldn't surprise me if Furman won because I'm not super impressed with Virginia this year, but I think that they have enough to get past this round. And again, similar styles. I think the thing that's going to give Virginia a lot of trouble is when they play those teams where they get in a hole about 8 to 10 points. You saw that with Duke. Duke
Yeah.
got that 10-point lead, literally kept the 10-point lead the entire game.
Yeah. I
So,
remember us talking during that game, and I think Duke was up by like 12 at the time. And we were just like, man, this feels like a 20-point lead. You know, I mean,
yeah.
it just feels like a way bigger hole than it would with most teams. All right, so next we got Creighton, the 6 seed against NC State, the 11. I really like Creighton. They're kind of that team. I kind of think of them like I do Gonzaga. They were ranked really high at the beginning of the year, and then they kind of had a rough start to the season, kind of like Gonzaga did. And I feel like they're kind of their last game they played awful, and I think Xavier was the one that beat them. They just shot the lights out. But I do think that they can go on a run, and I think they've got they've just kind of got that pedigree of shooters, upperclassmen. I really like them to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, Creighton teams that can shoot the three ball, I think have a chance to make a run. And Creighton can shoot the three ball. They shoot a pretty high percentage from three. They got a couple of really solid players. Um, NC again, the ACC as a whole. When I've watched the games, the ACC has been a weird conference because Duke I thought was terrible 2 months ago. Now they're looking like a team that
Well,
could make a run to the
they
Final
were
Four.
terrible 2 months ago.
Yeah, I mean Miami is a team that I think again we'll talk about them here in a little bit. ACC's got a couple of top heavy teams. I think the bottom, even these teams that just got into the tournament like NC State, give me Creighton because I think Creighton is better than a 6 seed. I'm not saying they deserved higher, but I think Creighton has the talent to be more of a 3 or 4 seed, and I like them quite a bit in this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're one of those teams that if they're playing their best, uh, that I think like if Creighton would have played their best all year, I think they're probably like a 3 or a 4.
And in
Um,
this bottom part of the bracket, I mean, I really think Creighton, if you're a Creighton fan, I'd be pretty excited. I mean, this bottom half of this bracket, Arizona's playing really good basketball right now, but this bottom half of this bracket, I think you have a chance to make a little bit of a dark horse run here to the Sweet 16 or Elite Eight if you can get past this first round.
Yeah. Next, we got the 3-14 matchup Baylor versus UC Santa Barbara. I like Baylor. I don't think they're as good as some of the past Baylor teams, but they do have good guard play and they just get after you. I think that's kind of the recipe for them to. They're just gonna have to be more athletic than the team they're playing against, and they're gonna do this against UC Santa Barbara. I could see this getting out of hand pretty quick. So yeah, I'm not overly impressed with Baylor this year, but I do think that they kind of coast in this one.
Yeah, I like Baylor. Again, I like a lot of the Big 12 teams, at least in the early rounds. Baylor's no exception. Again, I think Baylor's tougher to prepare for on a short, like the second round matchup will be tough for that team to prepare for Baylor. I think if Baylor is going to get beat, it would be now as opposed to the second round, even if it is Creighton. But yeah, I like Baylor.
Um, Missouri, the 7 seed against Utah State, the 10 seed. This was another one of those really tough games to pick. Because I do think that both teams can make it a little. I don't think either one of these are going to be Arizona, but I do think that if they were placed somewhere else, they could make a little bit of a run because they're kind of sneaky. But give me Utah State. I've seen Missouri play more than I've seen Utah State, and Missouri is just so. I don't know. It's almost like sometimes they win by accident. Um, they can get really hot or really cold, and just give me Utah State. I just feel like this is kind of the year for those teams that are always kind of on the bubble of getting in and being really good. So give me them to win this one.
I like Missouri, and not a
Yeah.
whole lot of other reasons except for I watched both play this weekend. I thought Missouri looked a little bit better.
Okay.
That's it.
Number two, Arizona against Princeton. Taking Arizona in this one. I actually think Arizona. Um, I have Arizona going really far. I really like Arizona. I liked them a lot at the beginning of the year. I saw them play a few times, and they have what a lot of teams don't have, and that's really good bigs. And I just think that not only do they have good bigs, but they've got decent guard play. So I just think they're going to be really hard to match up with. So yeah, give me Arizona in this one, and like I said, I have them going really far in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to pick Arizona, but this game's going to be closer than people think. I think Princeton plays a style that I think will give people a little bit of problems. I could definitely see, and again, I know we're going to do this in another episode, but I would definitely be interested in the first half. Maybe taking Princeton, the points with Princeton in that first half because I think Princeton is going to keep it close early on in the game. I think Arizona will end up winning probably by double digits, but I think this game, at least early on, is going to be closer than people think. But yeah, Arizona.
Yeah, I think that's normally the play. If you're going to take an underdog, the first half, I think the underdog has to keep the game close. Um, for me, I haven't seen a ton of. I can't remember a bunch of times where the favorite jumps out way ahead and then the underdog claws their way back. Normally, it's the other way around. The underdog
Yeah.
kind of sneaks up on them early, and so that's the South bracket, and we're just going through the first round of games right now. So we'll move on to the East, which of all the brackets, I think this is probably the most wide open. I think you can make a case for a bunch of different teams coming out of this bracket. But let's start with the top: Purdue versus Texas Southern. Fairleigh Dickinson. I don't really have a good gauge on Purdue. I feel like if Edey has any kind of a letdown game, or if he's gets in foul trouble quick, I think they're going to be bounced really fast. I think they live and die with him. Um, I mean, to the extreme. Like I think that they really, without him, they would be like a maybe not even a tournament team. Um, so yeah, I like Purdue in this game, but I'm not very high on them going forward, just because I don't think that's how you win in the tournament. I think it's mainly guard play.
Yeah, I like Purdue. I mean, it's easy.
Yeah. Um, Memphis FAU. Who do you got in this one?
Memphis, easy. I mean, this is one that, no disrespect to FAU, Memphis really impressed me. So I'm going to take Memphis. Memphis has the talent to go a couple of rounds deep in the tournament.
Yeah, this is another one that I keep going back and forth because the more I look into FAU, they had a really good year. I think they won like 30 games or 31 games. Um, and Memphis is hot right now. They're on a high note winning the conference tournament. And the bad thing is whoever I could see whoever winning this game winning the next one too. So I feel like that's going to hurt a lot of people's brackets. But I'm with you. I think Memphis is just they're peaking at the right time, and they've got the athletes to just really kind of take over games if they need to. Um, Duke at the 5 seed against Oral Roberts. I got Duke. I think Duke is playing better than just about anybody right now. They've kind of figured out that those freshmen have kind of figured it out a little bit. And they got some good senior leaders or I don't know if he's a senior, but Roach. I just really like him as a player. I think he's a guy that, when Virginia was cutting that game down the other night, he was the guy that hit big shot after big shot. And so I like Duke in this one. What about you?
If Oral Roberts was matched up with any other 5 seed, I'd be picking Oral
Yeah,
Roberts.
I would be too.
Duke is just playing that good of basketball right now. I love the way that Filipowski's playing. I mean, I'm getting more and more impressed with that guy every time I see him play. I think he's the type of player, even though I agree with you on guard play, but I do think he's the type of player that can carry you in March. Um, like I see him evolving into like, we always see a player that is good, and then when the tournament comes, he becomes a household name. Keep an eye on Filipowski because this dude's a special player, and I think that he could have himself a big tournament.
Tennessee against Louisiana, the 4-13 matchup. Tennessee is down bad right now. They have not played well in the last month and a half, and I don't know. I don't know if it's something that can be salvaged. One of their best players, if not their best player, is out with an injury. So give me Louisiana in this one. I feel like that's going to be a popular upset pick too, but it's tough, man, when you have a team that's really high at the beginning of the year and then they just start tumbling. It's just hard to rebound after that. And, they didn't have a good showing in the conference tournament. So give me Louisiana.
I like Tennessee. I think that, you know, it's a time where they can get out of playing in conference. Sometimes that is a great thing for these teams that are struggling, just to see somebody different, see a team that hasn't, that you don't see all the time.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not impressed with Tennessee, but I think they'll pull this one out.
And they've had some good wins. I mean, they beat Texas pretty handedly.
They're the most vulnerable. They're definitely one of the more vulnerable teams heading into it. Like if you're looking for an upset, that's why that one's so popular. But again, anytime everybody's on a pick that's an underdog pick, I
Yeah.
tend to just stay away from it a little bit because I just think that it's one of those things where I think the upsets are going to come where we're not really looking.
Yeah. Kentucky and Providence in the next round. I'm going to make this quick. I like Kentucky. I don't think Providence is that great. And I think Kentucky is kind of like Memphis, where they have a lot of talent. They have a lot of highly rated freshmen and athletic guys. And I just think they'll find a way to pull it out. So give me Kentucky.
Yeah, give me Kentucky.
K-State, Montana State. Again, Kansas State. I really like Kansas State. I think they kind of go under the radar a lot because they don't have that like star on their team, or they're not one of those blue blood programs, but they're really good. And they've got some guys on their team that can play. So I like Kansas State not only in this game but going forward.
I truly believe whoever wins this game goes to Sweet 16 because I think that Montana State is a little bit better than a 14 seed, and I think Kansas State is a little bit better than a 3 seed. As weird as that sounds, I think that if they would have won, if they would have went on the run Texas did, they would have gotten a 2 seed, and I think they have the talent to do that. I like Kansas State a lot too. I think they're a team that nobody's talking about,
Yeah.
and that's a mistake because they're very good and they play. And they're fun to watch. I mean, if you've ever watched,
Yeah.
if you've watched Kansas State this year, they're a lot of fun. So, I like Kansas State a lot, and I feel bad for Montana State because I think Kansas State could run away with this one a little bit.
And I do think that if you're a K-State fan, this is the bracket that you kind of wanted to make some noise in. I think that, like I said earlier, I think this is a wide open bracket. I could see 4, maybe 5 teams coming out of here, and I think K-State's one of those teams. So, 7 seed Michigan State against the 10 seed USC.
USC.
Yeah,
I think the Izzo thing, man. I think Izzo's one of the greatest of all time, but I think that fear of Izzo in March is fading a little bit, man. I mean, again, here I go saying that, and he's going to pull off 5 wins in the tournament, but I'm just going USC solely based on gut check. I just think USC is going to win this one in a close one.
Yeah, I give me Michigan State. I don't know, man. I just can't go against Izzo first round. He'll have them ready. They're gonna be ready to play. They're gonna play. They're gonna be physical, and I don't know. I don't know if USC can handle the physicality that they're gonna bring. 2 seed Marquette against Vermont. Give me Marquette. Marquette was probably, after the Texas and Alabama, they were the third most impressive team for me. They were just I really like their team. The only thing I think is going to really hurt them is they are very undersized. They have great guard play. Kolick, I think his name is. He's one of the best point guards in the nation. But if they go against a team with some really good size, that they could get hurt big time. So give me Marquette.
Yeah, just based on how good the point guard is, Kolick. I'm not even going to pretend that I knew his name before this weekend. That just shows you that I haven't watched a lot of Big East basketball. But I'm just telling you right now, there's a part of me, and we'll talk about this in our betting show. There's a part of me that might take a flyer out on this one and go Vermont. I'm always nervous for 2 seeds that go against 15 seeds that have been in the tournament, that are used to being in the tournament. That in Vermont is there all the time. They've won games in the tournament. And I'm telling you, if you're looking for like a long shot play, out of all the 215 matchups, I think this is the one that you can maybe circle. And it's not because Marquette's not really good. It's just Marquette doesn't have a ton of experience. I think Vermont has, again, any school that's used to being there. It's kind of like we see it with VCU now. VCU's in it every year. They're still an underdog in games, but Vermont's a team that I could see winning this game. Honestly, I think I'm going to take Marquette, but this one again is going to be a lot. Is going to be interesting. I'm very interested to see if Vermont can keep it close long enough to pull off the upset.
Well, and it's one of those things where there wasn't a lot of upsets in the conference tournaments. There was a bunch of like all the teams, Florida Atlantic, Oral Roberts, they all won their conference tournaments. San Diego State, teams that are outside like the Power Five, and so all these teams that are in the dance are teams that are really good teams that have won 24, 25 games. And I would not be surprised. I don't have any big like upsets of like 2 seeds getting beat, but I could see that happening because there's just such good teams in this field from top to bottom. All right, so let's go to the Midwest. This is Houston's bracket. Houston, Northern Kentucky. Give me Houston. I think that's pretty easy pick, and I would expect them to put on a show because they kind of got embarrassed a little bit on Sunday, and I think they could come out and really stick it to Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, Houston and Kansas is ones that I would be interested to take a first half. I'm with you. I think Houston and Kansas both have something to kind of get off their chest a little bit, and so I think those are going to be absolute routes.
Yeah. Iowa Auburn. This is another game that I'm intrigued by. I think I like Auburn, or I think I like Iowa though, just because I've seen Auburn play more than I've seen Iowa play, and Auburn has this thing where they just go huge stretches where they can't score. They can't find a bucket. They can't create a bucket, and Iowa's going to put up points. So I just think if Auburn gets behind, it's going to be really hard for them to claw back. So give me Iowa in this one.
I love Auburn in this game. I
Really?
love Auburn. Yeah, yeah, and we'll talk about again. I'm jumping the gun, but we'll talk about this in our betting show. But this is one of the ones I've circled. This is one I'm feeling really good about. I think again, no disrespect to Iowa. I think Iowa can put up some points. Bruce Pearl in March, man. We talk about certain coaches. Bruce Pearl teams in March they have this different feel to them. I can't really explain it. They play beyond what you would think normally. I think he's going to get them ready to play. I think Auburn is a team that is much better than a 9 seed if they play their best game, and so I like Auburn here quite a bit.
Miami and Drake, the 5-12. This is another popular pick. A lot of people are climbing on Drake to win this one. I like
Miami all day.
I like
all
Miami
day.
too. I
Yeah.
think Miami just has, like, we talk about the formula in March and it's good guard play, and Miami has really good guards. I think his name's Wong. I mean, he's great, and I don't know if Drake's going to be able to stop them from scoring. So I do think that's one of my most anticipated games, though. I think that is going to be a great game. But give me Miami in that one.
Yeah, if Sasser's injury lingers, I'm telling you right now, I still might even have this, not knowing. I think Miami can make a run at the Elite Eight, even to the Final Four. I think Miami is a team that, yes, they could get bounced in the first round because if they're not hitting their shots, just like anybody, they could get bounced first round. So it wouldn't shock me if they got beat in the first round. But I think that they have the talent and the firepower on offense, and we see it all the time. If a team gets hot at the right time, I think Miami is a dark horse Final Four team.
I like Miami. I don't have them going that far
It's
in
only
the
because it's only because of
But
Sat.
I
Like
see what you're saying. They
when
have
I'm
a good
looking at
coach.
that top bracket, I think they're the second best
Yeah.
team in that half.
They have a good coach. They have good, guard play. They can get up and down. I see what you're saying. I just don't have them going that far. 4 seed Indiana at Kent State or against Kent State, the 13. Give me Indiana. I really like Indiana. Sometimes their role players are not very consistent. But Trace Jackson and Hood Shafino, I know I butchered his name, but both those guys are really good. And their big man is just, I'm really impressed by him. I think he can lead him to at least one, maybe two wins in this tournament. So give me Indiana.
Um, Indiana, man. I I'm gonna go Indiana, but don't be surprised if we talk on Thursday that I might switch this over to Kent State, but I'm just not super. I think Indiana's got like two really good players, and I just they don't. This wouldn't shock me if Kent State won, but I'm gonna go Indiana just barely.
Iowa State, the 6 seed against either Mississippi State or Pitt. I think we both have Pitt winning that game.
Iowa State is gonna. I'm telling you right now, I'm not wanting to play Iowa State.
Iowa State's a very streaky team. Like they're
Yeah,
a team that can beat. I feel like they can beat just about anybody, but I also feel like they can lose to anybody too.
yeah, and I'm just telling you, the Big 12 was that good this year.
Yeah.
Out of all the conferences, I watched Big 12 the most. They're that good. I like Iowa State, whoever they end up playing.
Xavier and Kennesaw State, and I think we're both on the upset in this one. I like. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Kennesaw State, right? You're going to say Kennesaw. You're
Yeah,
going to pick Kennesaw State. Yeah, we talked about this when the bracket was unveiled. This was the one that just like sometimes it's just all about feel. I have no like analytics to provide to you other than I just think Kennesaw State's going to beat Xavier. I think that Xavier is overseeded.
I do too.
And I think that Kennesaw State is a team that nobody's talking about. I love picking a 3-14 upset every year. This is my big 3-14 upset. Kennesaw State, man, and again, we'll talk about this on the betting show, but I definitely think with it being 11 and a half, I think that is a steal. I would totally go Kennesaw State plus 11 and a half, but I like them to win this game actually. So I like Kennesaw State to beat Xavier.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm just not very impressed with Xavier. And again, sometimes when teams get into conference and it's these big, Big East, ACC, Big Ten, like you don't really know how good these teams are because they just beat up on each other. So then, you compare them with who they've been playing. So it's like, oh, well, this team is ranked whatever, and they beat them. Yeah, well, maybe they're just not that good either. So I kind of feel that way with the Big East. Like I don't know how good that conference is top to bottom, but two of their top teams, UConn and Xavier, I don't know. When I watch them play, I'm just not overly impressed with them. So uh, give me Kennesaw State in this one. And I do know that Xavier could make a run in this, but I don't know. I'm like you, just something feels weird about this game, and that's why I'm staying away from Xavier. Probably the most controversial seeding of the tournament was Texas A&M at 7 going against Penn State, the 10 seed.
This might be the worst seeding since the year that Gonzaga was like 8th in the nation and they got a 6 seed. And then guess what happened to Gonzaga? Got beat in the first round of that tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, because what happens sometimes, man, is when all week you've been told, like, man, y'all got disrespected, you would think that helps you kind of, have a chip on your shoulder and you go out there. Sometimes it does the opposite. Like you're so focused on that that you don't focus on the job at hand, and that's winning the game. And this is a tough game for me to pick. I would love to see Texas A&M, Texas in that second round, just because. I mean, I just think that'd be great for
Well, that's
TV.
why they're a 7 seed.
Yeah.
Everybody wants that matchup for sure.
Um,
But I'm with you. This game, but what's difficult is Penn State is playing great basketball. They're playing the best basketball they played all year. They almost just beat Purdue to win the Big Ten title. Texas A&M got smoked by Alabama, but I'll be honest with you, Alabama could not miss in that first half. Penn State is not Alabama. I think Texas A&M is going to have a chip on their shoulder. I'm taking Texas A&M, but I do think this. I think this will be the most intriguing first round matchup because you got you got a team that's underseeded, and you have a Penn State team that's playing its best basketball of the season.
yeah.
And both of these teams made their championship game, so fatigue won't be a factor, or it'll be a factor for both. I like Texas A&M quite a bit in this game, though, but I think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, give me A&M too. But I could see it going either way. Texas, the 2 seed against Colgate, the 15. Give me Texas. I do think that Colgate is going to be, if Texas doesn't come ready to play, and we've talked about this all year because, we're big Texas fans, but Texas can get in a habit of going long stretches where they don't score and they can't get a bucket. And that's my only concern with Texas. I think as far as depth, I think they're one of the deepest teams in the country. But sometimes they just don't have a guy like Kansas has with Wilson that they just say, hey, we need a bucket. Or, hey, we need, like Alabama has with Brandon Miller. We need 6 points. Go take over for us. I don't know if Texas has that one guy. They do it more as like a team. But they're playing so well right now. And I don't know if there's a team in the country more confident than Texas right now just because of the way they've played against Kansas the last 2 times. So yeah, give me Texas, but they've got to come ready to play because they can, if they let up, Colgate could scare them a little bit.
I think Texas is going to annihilate Colgate. The reason being is because a couple years ago, again, I know that Brock Cunningham's the only dude from that team, or I think he's the only dude from the team. They got bounced in the first round. I don't see that happening again. I think this team is battle tested. They're mentally tough. They got a huge run ahead of them. I think that it's a 6 p.m. tip off. And the other interesting thing about the Texas A&M Penn State game, if Texas wins that game, if Texas A&M Penn State is close, I almost give the edge to Penn State going back to that game because you're going to have all those Texas fans out there getting in the heads of
It's the same
A&M
way.
fans.
Yeah,
Same
it's the
way with
same way
Texas
the
and
other.
Colgate.
Yeah.
That's why I think Texas is going to come out early and just put it on them. And the thing I really like about Texas is they can beat you in a multitude of ways. They can beat you in an up-paced, up-tempo game, and I think they can beat you in a half-court game if they needed to, especially with how Disu's playing. So give me Texas here. I like Texas quite a bit by double digits.
Moving on to the West, the last region, Kansas versus Howard.
Kansas is going to put up 100 in this game.
Yeah, I feel like Kansas is going to put on a show. Bill Self should be back. I would hate to be Howard right now. I think they're going to get Kansas' best game.
Would you rather be in the play-in game? Would you rather be in that first 4, or would you rather be Howard this year?
I think I would rather.
I still think I'd rather be Howard because just getting to play Kansas is like that's your season, like that's your reward.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, we're going to be on a huge stage playing Kansas.
Yeah, it's one of those tough things because think about it. Normally the 1-16 matchup's not early in the morning. I was gonna say if that game was at like 11:45 and not a ton of people would be watching it, then it might be different. But I don't know. Like there is something to be said about being the showcase game on one of those first nights.
You know what game's at 11:40 a.m.? Kennesaw State Xavier.
Oh wow.
Another reason I like it.
But
yeah, Kansas big.
Yeah. Arkansas, Illinois, the 8-9. I keep going back and forth on this one as well. I just don't have a good feel for how good either one of these teams are. Like Arkansas, they have athletes everywhere and they have a really good guard play, but sometimes, man, they can't hit an open shot to save their lives. Illinois is kind of the same way. Um,
I
get
like I like I like Arkansas
yeah, give me Arkansas. I'll probably
because
change this.
anytime it's close for me in March, it's like, okay, who has the potential to be a really good to great team? Like, because all these teams that aren't in the top two or three line, they've proven that they can be bad this year, and they can even be, like they can be bad. Arkansas has been bad this year, um, but Arkansas has the potential. They have the talent on the roster to be a really good team. So for me, that's where I kind of give the advantage to a team like Arkansas because if they can make it click in this tournament, they have enough talent to compete, not beat, to compete with anybody. So I like Arkansas on this one.
Give me Arkansas as well. St. Mary's the 5 against VCU the 12. I really like VCU in this game. I think that the way that you kind of beat St. Mary's is you're just more like athletic and just physical than them, and I think that's VCU through and through. I just think I watched them play a few times, and I've seen St. Mary's mainly when they play against like Gonzaga, and I don't know. I just feel like VCU is a team that can really just get after you. That's why they always kind of make these runs in the tournament, or they're always a dangerous team in the tournaments because it's hard to if you're not used to playing against a team like that, it can be hard to prepare for that kind of helter skelter type game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the
So give
crazy
me
thing is VCU shoots 22 free throws a game.
yeah,
That's when I saw that stat, I was like, that's a team that's just putting constant pressure on you.
yeah,
But here's the thing: the one thing that St. Mary's does well is they protect the basketball, and I think St. Mary's is again. I think that this is one of those ones that almost everybody's going to have VCU. I like St. Mary's in this one, but I think this is going to be a great game, like down to the wire, potential buzzer beater type game,
yeah.
and it'll come down to turnovers.
Yeah, if VCU can turn them over, then this could be a rout. But they do, like you said, they do take care of the ball, so we'll see. Um, UConn, the 4 seed against Iona, the 13, and I said it earlier. I'm not big on UConn. I saw so many people today that analysts and stuff that had UConn going to the Final Four. I don't know. I don't know what they're seeing. Maybe I'm missing something, but I just don't see it. Uh, I just think Iona is kind of they got Patino who like everybody just want. I would just love to see Patino make a little bit of a run because he's starting to get all this pub for going to like a Big East school next year. I don't know. I have a feeling they're gonna play hard for him and give me Iona in this one.
It's one of those ones, man. I like Iona so much that I know that I'm wrong on it. It's like I
Hmm.
like them. I like them so much in this game that like it's a no brainer for me. It's like Iona's going to win, but those make me nervous. Like, why do I like Iona so much? So I'm going to take Iona as well, but I know that I'm going to be wrong. You know,
Yeah,
I just feel like I like Iona too much, and everybody else likes UConn way too much. And I just feel like it's one of those ones that I just got to trust my gut though. And I've had Iona when the brackets were revealed. I was like, I was waiting to see where they put Iona, and I think other than Tennessee, um, I will say though when I look at the 4-13 matchups, what's crazy is I think Iona is probably the best 13 seed, and I think UConn's the best 4 seed out of all the 4-13s.
yeah.
So
All right, so TCU and then the winner of Arizona State, Nevada. I think whoever TCU plays, I think TCU is going to win that one. Bridges from TCU, I really like him. I think he's a really good player, and I just think TCU's tough. Um, and they're just kind of play that style that I think wins in March. And so give me TCU.
yeah, I like TCU. If it's Arizona State, you know, I think Arizona State is a dangerous team. I like TCU. I don't think I've picked a Big 12 team losing in the first round, so I know that one
They're
of
not
them
going to
will
win a single
lose.
game.
Yeah, I think one of them will lose, but I mean, I just have to go by the matchups, and I do think TCU would beat either one of those teams.
All right, Gonzaga, the 3 seed against 14 seed Grand Canyon. I love Gonzaga right now. I think they're peaking at the right time. I think they've got a guy in Timmy that can, they were hoping that last year was going to be the year that they would finally do it, and they weren't able to get it done. I just feel like it's got to be their time at some point, and I really like them to go far in this. And I just love Timmy as a player. I hope he goes far. So Gonzaga for me.
Yeah, this is a Grand Canyon's a great story, man. Bryce Drew, um, they're a great story, but the story comes to a close here. I think Gonzaga. This is one of those ones that, like, when we talk about on our betting show that we're gonna do, I like Gonzaga, man. Like with the points, with everything. I think Gonzaga is gonna just put the hammer down on this game. Like Gonzaga. It's just a collision course for me for Gonzaga, UCLA, in that Sweet 16 matchup. I don't see that not
Yeah,
happening.
yeah. Northwestern, Boise State. I saw Northwestern play the other day, and it set basketball back
Yeah,
like 30 years. It
I'm not
was
picking Northwestern just because of what I had to watch
oh
over
my
the weekend.
god, it was the worst, some of the worst basketball I've seen in a long time. Um, so give me Boise State. I'm like you. I don't care who they were playing. I'm not picking them.
Yeah, it's just the
Um,
prince. It's just the principle
yeah,
of
I
the
can't
thing.
cheer. I can't cheer for that.
Yeah, it
And then
doesn't matter. Whoever wins this game, and we can make this one quick. UCLA over UNC Asheville by a landslide for me. But
yeah,
whoever wins this, just this like UCLA is going to dominate this pod. I think they're pissed off losing at the buzzer. I think Mick Cronin is one of the most underrated coaches in all of college basketball. I think that dude is an elite coach. Um, I'm telling you, man. You know how you feel about Arizona, or was it Arizona that you really like that you have going far
yeah,
in the tournament?
yeah.
That's how I feel about UCLA. I love
I love
UCLA's team.
UCLA too. Yeah.
Love them.
I love them, but they're going against another team that I really love in Gonzaga. So that was probably like
That's
once we
why
get out
that
of the first
matchup's going to
round.
be incredible. Yeah,
Yeah. All right. So
that'll be an
our
incredible matchup.
that's our bracket breakdown. Let's quickly go over who we have in the final four. Do you have your final four set?
I'll do who I got in the Elite Eight, and then because I want to say who I got in the Elite Eight too. So I'll just go in the South region. I got Alabama. I mean, there's just nobody up there that's going to put up a fight with Alabama. I
Yeah.
mean, Alabama could even have a mediocre game, and I still think their mediocre beats everybody's best. I know that sounds
Mhm.
crazy, but that's the difference. I like Alabama here, and oddly enough, again, I haven't completely filled out my official bracket, but I'm going to take Creighton. I like Alabama and Creighton in the Elite Eight. I think Creighton and Arizona playing that Sweet 16 game, but I like Creighton. I don't know why. I'll probably actually put Arizona on my real bracket, but for the show, for right now, I have Creighton. Alabama, Creighton
Uh,
in that one. And then do you want to do your South, or do you want me to do all mine?
no, I'll do my South real quick. I got Alabama and Arizona, but I do have Creighton and Arizona playing in the Sweet 16. But I got Bama and Arizona.
And obviously I got Alabama in the Final Four from that region.
I got Arizona
Oh, nice.
beating
Okay.
Alabama.
Okay. All right. And so for the East region for me, we've talked about this a little bit. It pains me. Because I mean, here we go again, having to see Duke on another run. But I think Duke and Purdue meet in the Sweet Six. I think Duke's playing that good. Now here's the thing. Duke scares the hell out of me when I'm filling out my bracket because I could truly they've played so bad this year that I could see them getting beat in the first round. But I like Duke to meet up with Kansas State in the Elite Eight here. And man, I can't decide who I like more, man. I think I'm gonna have to go with Kansas State. Just because I think Duke's got a yeah, I'll go Kansas State. So I got Alabama versus Kansas State in that matchup for the Final Four.
So yeah, I got Duke coming out of that top part in the East, and then I got Marquette coming out of the bottom part with Duke winning against Marquette. But I'll be honest though, that K State, if K State and Marquette play each other, that's a very intriguing game for me. I could see either one of those teams winning.
I want that matchup
Um,
so bad.
yeah,
That would
that
be
would be
such a great game.
Yeah, that's like two teams that are built for each other, playing each other.
I know we want all the upsets because it's so much fun, but
You
there's
do in the
so
first
many.
round. You
Yeah,
do in the first round,
there's
but
so
you
many
want
potential great Sweet 16
yeah,
games that I hope we get.
yeah. Um,
All right, so
so
just to go over it, I got Alabama playing Kansas State, and you have Arizona playing Marquette.
no, I got Duke winning.
Okay,
No, I got Duke winning. So Arizona and Duke on that side.
and are you picking Duke? Same reason we don't think Duke's a Final Four team. It's just the lay
I think they got a
the
great
draw,
draw.
the
I think they
draw.
got an
Yeah,
amazing draw.
yeah,
Like if they were in, Alabama's or Kansas's region, I might not be as high on them, but I just think they got as good of a draw as they could have hoped for.
yeah.
All right, so the East, is it the East, right? Yeah, or no,
The Midwest.
Midwest. This is yeah. So this is like I said, this is a one of the tougher regions. I think, just top to bottom. I'm not huge on Xavier, but a lot of these other teams I think are really good. Um, so in that top part, give me Houston, and then in the bottom part, give me Texas. With Texas going to the Final Four, that would be if Texas and Houston meet in the Elite Eight to go for the right to go to Houston for the Final Four. That would just be a huge game, and
Yeah,
I don't know. I just think Texas, having played the teams they've had to play this year, I think that's going to prepare them for, and they've won games, a lot of really close battles. I just think that's going to really help them in the tournament. So,
yeah.
give me Texas.
I know this sounds crazy, man. I think Houston's good enough without Sasser to get by a couple rounds, but if Sasser is out,
They need him 100%.
yeah, and I don't think he's gonna be in any jeopardy just based on Vegas making Houston the favorite to like win it. So something tells me that maybe he'll be okay. But regardless, I got to go based on the information I have right now, and the information I have right now is not 100%. I could definitely change this, but I have Miami, Florida, and Texas in the Elite Eight here, and I like Texas to go to the Final Four again. Just like you said, Texas has the depth. They have the leadership. I think they're a team that is striking at the right time, battle tested. There's a little bit of bias there for me for Texas, but at the same time, I think they are capable of winning this whole thing. So Texas in the Final Four from the Midwest region.
Yeah, I just think Texas is kind of like they're almost built kind of like a Frankenstein monster would be built. They have like all these, they have a couple of top recruits, and then they've got a bunch of guys from like different programs that transferred in. Marcus Carr, Jabari Rice, Disu, like some of their three of their top players are all transfers. Um,
And they can beat you. I said it earlier. They can beat you in a number of ways. Those are
yeah,
teams. Alabama's the same way. Alabama can beat you in different ways. Texas can beat you in different ways. So, that's why I really like Texas as well. Is even if it's an ugly game in the 50s, I think Texas can win that. If it's a fast-paced game in the 80s, I think Texas could win that. So,
yeah.
I like Texas there from the Midwest.
All right, and then in the bottom, or in the West region, top portion, I've got Kansas coming out of that top part, and then in the bottom part, I've got Gonzaga. I love if UCLA would have been in any like if they would have been the 2 seed in Marquette's region, I probably would have had Marquette or had UCLA going in that region. But I don't know, man. I just have a feeling that Gonzaga. I feel like Gonzaga is at its best when they're not expected to go far, and them being a 3 seed, I don't think a lot of people are really that hyped for them this year. So give me Gonzaga, and then Kansas Gonzaga. That's gonna be another great game, man. If we get that matchup, give me Gonzaga. I've always thought this year that Kansas' one real weakness is one, their role players sometimes don't show up, and two, they just don't have a lot of big man depth. And I think Timmy could just go to work on them, man, if he's allowed to. So give me Gonzaga coming out of that. So on that side, Texas and Gonzaga rounding out my Final Four.
I like Kansas to pretty much have an easy route all the way to the Elite Eight. UCLA is gonna have a tougher route, but I love UCLA there. I think UCLA is gonna that UCLA Gonzaga potential matchup will be great. But I love this UCLA team. Kansas UCLA, and I think UCLA beats Kansas to go to the Final Four because Texas laid out the blueprint for how you beat Kansas. You don't, and this is why I think if Gonzaga met up with Kansas, I would pick Kansas because you beat Kansas with a multitude of players, and Texas had a multitude of guys that could run Grady Dick off the 3-point line. They kind of let
Wilson.
Wilson. They kind of let Wilson go to work, and
Yeah.
they kind of just said, "We're going to stop everybody else," and they did exactly that. That's how you beat Kansas. I think UCLA has that same type of team that Texas does, where they have a couple guys that can score, but they have a lot of guys that can guard multiple positions. They're physical, they're tough. They're a team that you remember playing. They're just Mick Cronin's squads are just always tough-minded teams, battle-tested teams. So I like UCLA in Texas to meet on in the Final Four in Houston.
Yeah, and I also like that UCLA. If UCLA beats Gonzaga, I would pick UCLA to beat Kansas as well, just because they got Jaquez. Wilson's gonna have to guard him on the other end, and I would love that matchup. Either way, if we get some kind of combination of that matchup, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So then in the Final Four, for me, I got Arizona and Duke, and then Texas and Gonzaga. I got Arizona beating Duke. I got Texas beating Gonzaga, and then I want to pick Texas so bad, but I feel like I'm going to jinx them if I do. So I'm going to go Arizona, hoping that it does a reverse because I want Texas to win the whole thing. But that would just be, if we get that Final Four, that would just be insane. I would love that.
Yeah.
So that's who I got.
Yeah, I like. So just to recap real quick, I have Arizona, Kansas State, Texas, and UCLA. I like, or Arizona. I'm sorry, Alabama, Kansas State, Texas, and UCLA. I like Alabama and UCLA. The only reason I'm taking UCLA is honestly 100% the same reason you just did. I don't want to jinx it. First off, second off, I think Texas has a pretty, depending on who they like. I just think that UCLA matches up really well with Texas. I'll put it that way. So if they actually do meet, I think that would be like an all-time game. I really do. I think both those teams are like very similar.
Yeah, I just think something I didn't point out. I'm sorry, but that would practically be home games for Texas too.
Yeah,
because it'd be in Houston. So that was another reason why if Texas is going to get to the Final Four, I like them in at least one of those games to come out on top.
Yeah. And so UCLA, Alabama, and I like UCLA. The reason I'm so big on UCLA is because I think in the tournament you can throw out depth, you can throw out this, you can throw out that. To me, it comes down to a couple players. Alabama has those dudes. Everybody in the Final Four has those guys, but UCLA has two really good players that control the basketball. You talked about it with guard play. Campbell, I think Campbell is the most underrated guard in the country.
Yeah,
I think that dude is an amazing player. And then obviously we know what Jaquez can do. I really like teams when it gets close in March and it's a close game. I like teams that know exactly where it's going. I think that's the one thing that Texas does not have right now is where's the ball going to go in the last minute on a tie game. Yeah. So I'm taking UCLA, and honestly, UCLA Alabama, that would be an incredible game. But I'm going to take UCLA as my champion this year.
Nice.
So we both have two. You have Arizona winning it.
Yeah.
Ain't that crazy how like that conference is that top heavy where like there's two like just great teams?
But I've liked both those teams all year. I've liked Arizona all year. I really liked Arizona or UCLA as well.
Yeah.
And again, if I just wasn't crazy about Gonzaga right now, I would have had UCLA. And like if UCLA was in Duke's region, UCLA would be coming out of that for me.
So obviously everything we just picked, the exact opposite
is going to happen. Yes.
Yes.
So, all right.
What's the real quick though? What's the number one? What's your upset special of the first round? Like what are you the most confident? Not what you're just picking, but like what would you like recommend? If you had to give a buddy like he said, hey man, give me one upset. Like you can only pick one. Like which one would you feel most confident in?
I think Louisiana. I just think Tennessee, and plus Rick Barnes, as much as I love Rick Barnes, I think he has a history of kind of underperforming in the tournament, or his teams do. And they're just on a downward spiral, and they just have not figured it out since one of their top players went out. So give me Louisiana. That's like my, I wouldn't say guarantee, but that's the one I'm most confident in.
I'd probably say Iona for me, and then Kennesaw State a close second. But I just think the Patino factor, Iona, you know, I, that one just seems like the one I would probably jump on the most.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, if they weren't playing Duke, I would definitely be looking at that. Can't even think. I know it's not Grand Canyon. It's the Eagles. What's the
Xavier?
was no? Who's Duke playing in the first round? I just went blank.
Oh, Oral Roberts.
Oral Roberts. If they weren't playing Duke, any other 5 seed, even Miami, I'd be a little nervous for Miami, even though I have Miami going super far. But
Yeah.
that'd be one to keep. If Duke can get past that game, man, Duke's got a great chance.
Yeah,
So
they
that
do.
would be another upset game I'd be looking at too.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. That's our tournament breakdown. Like I said, we'll have out a betting special in a couple days right before the tournament. So we're actually going to Hot Springs for March Madness, watching the games and going to the casino and doing the whole thing. So we're looking forward to that. So Justin, thanks for joining us, man, and hopefully this is a good tournament.
Yeah, it will be. I think we're in. I think it's going to be an incredible opening weekend. I think the field is truly wide open in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be great.
All right. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.